Yeah, that got me some attention, right? So, welcome to this second Courage and Compassion event. I am going to introduce you to Andrea in just a little bit. First, I want to ask you, did anybody just hear the scream in the bathroom?
No.
No? Sorry? Was that me? Yeah. The thing is, for the last Courage and Compassion event, she knows what is coming. Afterwards, I got some feedback from my friends about, the event. Everybody thought Patty was amazing. She was amazing. She's a marathon swimmer. And then just like, yeah, Monica, you were great. However, you weren't really you the first 5-10 minutes. You have a lot of energy. You didn't really come across with all that much energy. So just be Monica from the beginning. And then Gail in here, we were out skiing in Kirkwood, and she said, you know what you do next time? Next time, you go to the bathroom or to some other place, and you take your arms up like this, and you say, I'm gonna be kick-ass! So thank you, Gailin, and we'll see if that helps me from not being so stiff today. Yeah, so my name is Monica Gudmundsson, and I am a life coach, and I'm also a Daring Way facilitator. And Daring Way is work based on the research by Brené Brown. Have you heard about Brené Brown? Anybody hasn't? Yeah? She has a great TED Talk on vulnerability where you can start. That's a good sort of entry, to find out who she is. Today actually was the end of my first Daring Way group. We had an 8-week group that ended today. And I have one person from, where are you, Linda? Linda? There, Linda. So she has just gone through this workshop. So it is really about sort of examining the thoughts, behaviors, and feelings that stop us from showing up, that holds us back. And then that's what we do in the workshop, sort of examine that and also look at what choices we can make and what practices we can make or put into place in order to show up fully, so that we can live authentically and wholeheartedly. So I am so passionate about this work. I need to do this again. I kick out of this. Yeah. Thank you, Galen, for that. You'll see that a lot here. Before I introduce Andrea, I also want to talk a little bit about empathy. Empathy is sort of such a big word, and before I really thought of empathy as something that you are or that you're not. That either you are empathic or you just take you can go here in front and just take the stage. Yeah, here. Thank you. But what I've realized that empathy, and the research also shows that empathy is actually a practice. It's something that we do sometimes, and we succeed, and sometimes we totally screw up. And I actually like that idea of it because it's more forgiving, that we can screw up and then we can circle back and just try it again. Just the other night, my daughter, she's 12, she came to me and she said something that probably was very important to her, but I just didn't listen to that. I'm like, hey, I'm doing this stuff. And she went away, and then afterwards I'm like, that was totally an empathy miss. I wasn't really present for her. So then in the evening I went back and like, you know what, I am so sorry. I didn't listen to you, I wasn't present. I wasn't really empathic to what you were saying. So can we try it again now? I will be here and I'll listen now. So I think that's a more forgiving way of looking at it and I also think that it's such a big word in the sense that how would you define empathy? How do you define empathy? Yeah?
Feeling somebody's pain.
Feeling somebody's pain.
Suffering.
Yeah.
Trying to be in somebody else's boots.
Yeah.
Whatever it is.
Yes, trying to be in somebody else's boots.
Feeling.
Sorry?
Sometimes it's joy, but
Yeah, it doesn't have to be pain, right? Yeah. So I love, Christina Wiseman has this great definition. She actually she has 4 attributes to empathy. that I think it really resonates with me and sort of makes it very understandable. Let's exemplify it. Let's say we all have a friend, and her name is Samantha. So our friend Samantha, she is single and she's just out dating, and she has met this guy that she just thinks is awesome, and she's going on her 5th date, and she just saw the TED Talk with Brené Brown. It's all about being vulnerable and saying how it is, and be courageous and all that stuff. And so she, on date number 5, she just like, I love you. And he just like, yeah, you're awesome, but let's date other people too. And she comes to us now, right? And she is coming, explaining, what happened. We're just like, huh? Are you crazy? Of course you can't tell a guy 8'5" that you love him. I mean, no wonder he ran. Did he even pay the bill? I mean, so that's number 1, right? Stay out of judgment. That is not what I just did. I was totally judgmental. So the first attribute of empathy is stay out of judgment. The second one is to take the perspective, what you were saying, step in somebody else's shoes. And so Mel, yeah. So Mel and I, we have this thing where when we date, we need to at least have been dating for 6 months and have had a couple of sleepovers that went well, right, with the guy, and then maybe we will say the L word. Maybe, but that's our thing. That's how we do it, right? Yes. Okay. And so when Samantha comes to us, we just come on, that's us. See how well that works. 6 months and then sleepovers and all that stuff. The thing is that when we tell Samantha that, we are not really taking on her perspective. We're staying in our own perspective, and that is sort of the biggest part of this perspective taking is the biggest part of empathy. That we're able to sort of check in with that person. How is that for you? What does that mean to you? Then it is what you were saying, to try to connect with the feeling that's going on. So we have first, stay out of judgment. The second one is take on the other person's perspective, getting out of our own perspective. Third one, then, trying to relate to feeling us that we think we're hearing. Because Mel and I, we don't know how it is to sit across a guy like that, because we don't do that. We don't say the L word after on the 5th date. But what I can relate to is the rejection, the pain she has, and so on. So it's trying to tap into ourselves, the feeling that we think we hear Samantha saying. So that's the third attribute. So non-judgment, perspective taking, and trying to connect with the feeling that we're hearing. And then also the fourth one is to try to communicate that. So try then to communicate to Samantha what it is we're hearing. So a way could be sort of, you were so courageous doing that, saying the L word on the 5th date. And however, I see that you're suffering. It looks so hard. Probably feels really, really hard, doesn't it? And so on, right? So with that being said about empathy, when I started this series, I wanted to invite women that inspire. And I thought about Andrea, because she, for me, embodies both courage and compassion. Leading up to this event, we sort of had a couple of lunches and so on, and I learned so much from Andrea just in this few, hours before too, but especially when we were, talking about these things like empathy and so on. And I've gained so much sort of insights from her, from hearing her perspective. And so I'm so happy that she's here today to talk with us. So please welcome Andrea. Sorry.
Thank you for those kind words. Wow.
You want me to sit down right away? Or?
Yes, please. Yeah. You can go up and do this anytime you want.
Okay, hi everybody. I'm just so incredibly humble that you guys are all here to listen to this, that you showed up. You know, some people are not here, but you are all here. And you know, whether you're here to listen to me or, you know, just to be here to listen because you want to support somebody else or, you know, that to me is compassion. Just the fact that you moved around your schedules and you took time away from your family. So I just want to say thank you. As Monica said, you know, my name is Andrea. I'm from Sweden. This is Monica, and we have a similar background with our moms that are from. Her mom's from the Czech Republic, and my mom is from Slovakia. So we have some things in common. And we moved here 5 years ago from Sweden, as I said, and I have 2 kids, a girl that is 7 and a boy that is 9, and we moved because of my husband's work. And I used to work in Sweden. I was working as a supply manager for a large Swedish company. I was mostly working with long-term purchasing agreement and strategic purchasing decisions and such dry things. You know, and you know, before I'm continuing to talk about this, I just want to say that this morning, when I was walking my kids to school, I witnessed a pretty bad car accident. I was just literally a few feet away from the crash, and we actually needed to jump into somebody's yard not to be hit by the car that spilled around.
Wow.
And you know, for 2 minutes we were the first people there, so I needed to call 911, and I needed to, you know, open the car door and see. There was a 4-year-old boy and see if he was okay, and the father was obviously shocked and he couldn't go out of the car. So, you know, that was pretty. So my compassion was really tested today too, and you know, I did what I could. And when I come home, I was thinking, you know, I was analyzing everything. I was thinking, did I, you know, was there more that I could do? You know, I should have said this and this to the father because he was obviously very shocked. And so this is not easy, you know, and I'm not an expert either, just because you know, I know a lot of things from the other side, which some of you maybe don't know from that perspective, even though we all, you know what compassion is, I think, you know, in some way. So yeah, I just wanted to start off with that. And back to my story, maybe, or actually before, you know, oh gosh, I feel like I'm really breaking the schedule. Started, you know, I have a tendency to just like, can you just give me a sign when I should just stop?
What should I like give you just a break, like drink a bit? Quiet.
I just want to hijack this opportunity to just say a few words first about lung cancer before I start talking about myself, because you know, I think it's important. Lung cancer is for those of you who don't know it that well, and I'm assuming that's most people in this room, it's the second biggest cancer in USA, and by far the most deadly. It kills more people every year than prostate cancer, breast cancer, and colon cancer combined. And you know, breast cancer those days, you didn't know that like 90% survive that today, and I think that's amazing that we came to that now. And prostate cancer is 98% who survive that, and for lung cancer is 18%. And yet we don't hear a lot about, you know, there's not a lot of lung cancer awareness months and lung cancer products out there, you know. And one of the reasons that I think there isn't is because it's a very stigmatized cancer. The first thing to think about is, you know, did you smoke? And I can't tell you how many times I got that question, you know, did you smoke? It's like, and that's interesting to me because, you know, if I would have, say, colon cancer, which in later studies is being linked to some lifestyle factors, you know, nobody would ask that person, like, did you eat a lot of sugar? Did you have a lot of bacon? With lung cancer, it is sort of okay. So people want to find out, like, did you put this on yourself? And I think that is so we treat that a little bit differently than a lot of other diseases. And also, what people don't know is that there are a lot of young people that get lung cancer, and that has been growing for the past 10 years. They're especially growing among young, non-smoking women, are particularly in a risk zone. And in some countries, for instance, in Asia, it's growing more than in some other parts, and nobody really knows why that is. So some people say that it's some studies say that it's genetical factors, and some say that it's linked to pollution, or it can be a combination of different factors. But I just want to just raise your awareness that that there are there are other cancers to be aware of, and just make sure that you support the right causes and not only the multinational companies that usually benefit from sick people, which I sometimes find a little bit so. All right, so enough about that. That's what I'm going to say about that. Back to me again then. So we're jumping back and forth. 3 years ago, I got a flu that was quite bad. It was nothing unusually bad, but it was a bad flu, and I got better after a few days, but I didn't get really well. I had a cough that just lingered and wouldn't go away. I had a very strange discomfort in my chest, which I didn't recognize from before, and most of all, I was tired. I was extremely exhausted all the time. So I went to the doctor after a while, and the doctor said what they usually do, it's probably the flu, and they gave me the antibiotics, and that was the starting point of a 3-month period of time where they're trying to figure out what I had. So it wasn't obviously the flu. I was just keep getting worse. I was diagnosed with several different diseases before they found out. So I was diagnosed with, they thought it was pneumonia, they thought it was something called valley fever, and I was back and forth to the doctor, and all the while I was getting more and more sick. And at one point I ended up at the ER. At that time I was having serious difficulties breathing. Which led to horrible panic attacks. I was exhausted. I lost quite a lot of weight. I was very thin, and I couldn't walk around my house without stopping and catching my breath. So in end of March, I was diagnosed with lung cancer, and not only did I find out that I had lung cancer, it was already in stage 4, and the doctor estimated that I had about 2 years to live. And that's 3 years up now, so I'm alive, and I'm still here. I started off the day after with chemo. I had done a few different treatments since then. Right now I'm in a clinical trial in San Diego, so I travel there back and forth once in a month. And I'm doing great. This drug is doing miracles for me. I'm feeling great. The problem with those drugs is, though, that the cancer eventually finds a way around it, because that's what cancer does. It has a very strong survival instinct. But I'm doing good now, and there is a lot of things happening on the research right now, and that's what I'm sort of hoping for or following, and yeah. So far, so good.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted to ask you then, how do you cope with living with death on your shoulder?
Yeah. So that's obviously one of the, I think, biggest challenges that you deal with as a cancer patient, especially as somebody with terminal cancer, because it's one thing staying alive, but it's another thing, really living. And I'm probably going to be in treatment for the rest of my life, and that thought of I'm going to be in this, it just seemed very impossible, especially in the beginning. It was like somebody pulled down a black and white filter in front of my eyes. I didn't know if I was ever going to feel joy again. I really didn't know how I was supposed to do that. But I've learned how to do that. I really learned how to appreciate my life now, even though I have this thing on my this burden on my shoulder, and I sort of learned how to switch it off or tone it down, the cancer feelings, the cancer thoughts. And it's not easy. This is something I really need to. I'm not an expert. I need to work with this every single day. actively. I work with a therapist. I work with my mental health and my physical health. I have a lot of tools that I try to use. For instance, I have that my therapist taught me. For instance, I try to, if I have a period where I am really anxious or have a lot of worry, I try to sort of focus that in one part of the day where I say, okay, let's just think of everything that I need to worry about right now, and I just do that, and then I try to, so much easier to let it go for the rest of the day, and that actually works quite well. Another thing is I'm trying not to be too judgmental towards myself. I'm trying to think, if I worry, I'm trying to think, it's okay. It's normal to worry, I can do that, and try not to beat myself up, and try to remember that those things come and goes in circles and in cycles. It's try to remind myself of that feeling that it eventually goes away.
How do you feel that this has changed your life?
Besides from the obvious things, the treatments and all that, I think mostly it changed in the smaller things. I was always very appreciative of my life even before. I don't think I took things for granted, but that feeling got a little bit stronger now. I can be on the backyard and drinking a cup of coffee in the sun, and or decorating the Christmas tree with my kids, and this feeling of gratitude can really flash over me. And I'm strongly, I sort of became more aware of what is important in my life, and I just strongly hate to waste my time on things that I don't find meaningful, and I do find it much easier to say no to things, and that comes a little bit with who would argue with that. So those things.
And how did people react around you?
The people that have been following me since before I got sick, I think they got pretty shocked and sad. I think we all got, because it was an unusual diagnosis, so I think it was quite shocking. But something like this happen. Friendship really, there is a lot of different dynamics in your friendship, and I think that's inevitable. That some things will change. Some friends drifted sort of away for some reasons, for different reasons. Some friends maybe because they sort of weren't maybe patient enough to stand by for that first time when I wasn't always very responsive, because it's very overwhelming in the beginning, and people trying to contact you from everywhere and trying to they want to know what's going on, and I wasn't always so easy to I did to keep people updated. So those people that sort of didn't understand that they need to be the initiative takers for a while, they sort of drifted off a little bit. And there are other people that really stepped up, but there are even people that came from unexpected sides, unexpected sources, and stepped up, and that are now very valuable in my life. So the dynamics change, definitely.
What would you say is the hardest thing to deal with for you?
Well, definitely, the part with my kids. Living with the thought that there's a possibility that they might grow up without a parent is really, it's devastating. It's something that you wouldn't want any child to have to go through, and this actually pops up in my head quite often, on a daily basis. I might be braiding my daughter's hair, and I'm thinking, well, I really need to teach Martin how to do this, when I'm gone, or I need to tell him that this short shirt goes with those pants, because he doesn't know that now. What I want to tell him when I'm not here, so trivial things like that.
So one thing that before this talk, I tried to do some research sort of on in general, what cancer patient, which is, that's generalizing totally, what happens, when you get cancer. And something that popped up in various different forums was the fact that many cancer patients, they have this thing of like going between sort of being grateful, but then also feeling envy, right? Of like, why me?
Yeah.
Like, so how is that for you?
I can see how it's very easy to be bitter in this situation and thinking like, you know, why this happened to me and not somebody else. And I don't think I'm bitter in that sense. I never thought, you know, why this. I try not to dwell on that feeling, like, you know, why did this happen to me? You know, of course, there are moments when I'm thinking, you know, I wish I didn't have this disease, of course. But I think there are two types of people: those that are really need to be in control of situations, and those that are really, you know, have much easier way of dealing with chaos. And I was never like a super controlled person, and I've always been very flexible and easy to adjust to new situations. So I think that helped me a lot with coping with this. That the fact that I can let control go easily, because this is something that you really can't have control of. And I think also deep down I have sort of a positive, you know, grounding somewhere, because you know, it might sound really strange to you, but I still consider myself lucky. You know, I had a really good life. I traveled. I lived abroad several times. I had you know, I have 2 amazing kids. I had a career, and I'm married, and I have you guys, and I have access to great doctors. It could have been a lot worse. You know, I could have been born in poverty and abused, or you know, I'm still one of the lucky ones. You know, even though I have this. So that's my point of view.
So one thing that's so big, I think, is the whole thing about empathy. We've been talking a lot about that, sort of empathy, and also empathic misses.
Yeah.
And I remember when you told me that somebody, you were talking to somebody and they said, how are you? You're good, right?
Yeah. I do have, and in Sweden that's an expression you can say, allt är bra med dig, ja? And that's something that I have closer elderly people around me that sort of direct the questions in that way, and I think because they are really afraid of hearing another answer that I am okay. So yeah, that's interesting. I try to challenge them a lot though by saying other things, and I can see that they get a little bit uncomfortable. You know, all people don't have. It doesn't come easily to everyone. But yes, this is a big thing, and you know, Monica asked me to talk a little bit more about this compassion, and you know, I can sit here and talk all night about it, and I'm not going to. So if you have some specific questions, you can also ask me.
Yeah, we're going to have actually questions afterwards, so we'll do that.
So
when we're done.
You know, you're most welcome to ask if you feel I didn't give a good answer.
But so what would you say then when people showed up, that when it felt good for you? What was that? You know, people think that it has to be like really super complicated, that they have to say something really well thought out, or they need to present me with some sort of solution or offer me something or something like that. It's not always like that, you know. It's much simpler than it can be. Much simpler than that, you know. It's usually, you know, looking somebody in the eye and just asking, you know, how are you? And you know, but not how are you as in how are you at the counters at Trader Joe's. When you don't listen, for that.
Really, you know, asking because you wanted to know the answer. That actually goes a long way, and you know, I know how hard that can be for somebody. I find it hard myself. I have my own first-hand experiences. We had a neighbor back in Sweden who got very seriously ill in cancer, and I was really, you know, I was really thrown back and shocked by that, and because he was far too young and he had young children. But at the same time, you know, I always wanted to take detours around his house because I was so scared of meeting him. And when I did eventually meet him at the preschool, I didn't know what to say. I was just, you know, shall I say something about his cancer? And I wanted to say the right things, and nothing felt like wordy enough. Or, you know, will he be offended if I bring it up? Maybe he will be sad or start crying. And you know, I ended up not saying anything. And I just babbled on about trivial things, although I was thinking, you know, oh, he must think I'm so stupid. And he probably doesn't care about this. He has obviously more important things on his mind. And you know, now I know I was just complicating things too much. I could have just asked him, you know, how are you doing? How are you? And, you know, I know how hard that can be for somebody. I can see that I would have left that to him to sort of make the decision if he wanted to tell me or if he wanted to keep it a little bit more private. But at least I could have, asked an open question or showed that, I know about this and I care about you. So asking open questions and really listen. And as Monica mentioned, listening is really important, and try to do it. It's not always as easy as try to listen without being judgmental and without all those things is not always easy. That's a good way. That's a good start at least.
So I read this book, When Breath Becomes Thin Air. Has anybody read that book? Yeah? Yeah? You too? It's called When Breath Becomes Thin Air. It's about this, that word is... Neurosurgeon. That is one word that I cannot say. Neurosurgeon. He did his residency in Stanford, and just when he was finished it, he... how was it now? Did he have lung cancer too?
He had lung cancer.
He had lung cancer too. And that book was, he died actually in last year, I think, in 2015, after his battle. And there was something in the book that I just thought was sort of something that really talked to me, and I just wanted to ask you about what he wrote. I began to realize that coming face to face with my own mortality, in a sense, had changed nothing and everything. 7 words from Samuel Beckett began to repeat in my head. I can't go on, I can go on. And you actually mentioned something similar when we've been talking,
Yeah, I actually met Paul. He was a very kind and humble man. And I do relate to what he's saying. I know I'm quoting him, he said at one point also, before I was diagnosed, I know that I was going to die, but I didn't know when. And now, after my diagnosis, I know that I'm going to die, but I don't know when. So, in a way, everything is really the same, but yet it's very different also, because all of a sudden those words become very real. And he also said, give me 3 months and I will spend them with my family. Give me a year and I will make plans, or give me 10 years and I'll go back to my work. And I can definitely relate to that too. The feeling that I don't think anybody would really want to know their end date, but the feeling that you don't really know how to spend your time in the best way is really frustrating sometimes. Because I have days when I really want to seize the day, and there are other days like today when I'm just screaming at my kids for not cleaning the room and things like that. And and I'm thinking, wow, is this how I want them to remember me? If this was my last week, is this what I want to do? But still, everyday life goes on with homeworks and parent-teacher conferences and all that. And so, that saying that, live your day as if it was the last, it's very hard to do that in practice. But yeah, I guess it's a balance.
Also, when we've been talking, you talk a lot about your therapist and how much she has helped you. Can you tell us, you told us a little bit about the anxiety, that worry, have your worry time, right? And try to worry as much as you can.
Yes.
So that came from her.
She says a lot of good things, actually. Yes, it's very helpful. I didn't start to go into a therapist until quite recently. And I find it really valuable. She sort of puts a perspective on things and gives me a lot of tools that I can use. Some of the tools are not, most of the tools are not specific to cancer patients. They are to every stressful or hard situation. So I can really recommend that for anybody if you have the chance. And it's also a good way for I don't always want to burden my husband or my close ones, and this is sort of a way to filter out some information before I talk to them. She has a lot of good things to say about how to handle those situations.
And how would you say, how do you see the future?
That is something that is very, it's very hard to say. I'm really, you know, I want to be hopeful. I'm hopeful and positive, and that's very easy on good days, you know, when everything is, you know, running fine and I'm feeling great. It's much more challenging on days when I had a progression, for instance, or when I had brain mass, for instance, at one point, and then sort of the statistics becomes very real. But you know, in our family, we don't make long-term plans. We learned how to deal with that. But we always have like 1 or 2 trips planned ahead, and that's what we look forward to. That's our goal. You know, we live from one holiday to another holiday.
You were just somewhere now, right? In the
We were in Utah.
Yeah, Utah. Yeah. Some great pictures from there. Yeah, actually, I think where'd that picture from in the back of the Courage and Compassion thing? That was not from Utah though, right? That was from others.
No, that was from Antelope Canyon.
There you go. Yeah. What would you say is the most valuable? I mean, I'm sure there are a lot of lessons, but what are some of the most valuable lessons? You know, when it comes to your journey.
It probably is that we are capable of more things than we think we are. The brain is amazing into adjusting into new situations, and you know, if I would picture myself sitting here and talking casually about this situation 3 years ago, that wouldn't have, you know, seemed impossible, and yet I'm here, and you know, I live with this, and I go up every morning and I make breakfast and I survive, and I actually have a good life, you know, in between also. So it is, we can do more definitely with our mind than we think we can.
Mm. Wow, thank you so much. I mean, I think this is such a treat, right, to be hearing this from you. I think that some of these things are so hard. I think that at least I have also done the neighbor thing, going around when it's been somebody that's been, you know, through some hard things, right?
Yes, I think we can. I think we can all relate to that, you know, and we all. I think we all make mistakes, right? Nobody's perfect, and you know, if you want to show compassion for somebody. And it doesn't come out right, it comes out like awkwardly, and it's not the whole world, you know, it's, we always, and I think it's also that we usually think that it's not as sensitive for me as it is for you, right? Mm-hmm. So, and you know, obviously I can't speak for all sick people or people that are going through crisis, but typically, you know, that person has had that in their head for hours and hours and a long time, and for you it might be much scarier than for them. So don't be afraid of, you know, asking something or saying something or showing up, because even if it doesn't come out perfect, it doesn't matter, and it doesn't really it's not that important, you know. It's more important to for me, you know, that at least that somebody tries. Mm-hmm. I know that it's uncomfortable, and I know that it's scary, and yeah.
Mm. So we're going to take some questions, but before that I wanted to, because this, for you that were here last time, this is going to be something we do every time. So I wanted you to just think about something, somewhere where you think, oh, I really would like to show up with empathy with that person in that situation, whatever it might be. Or, you know, like where I want to try to circle back when I do empathy misses. Or, you know, anything where you think, that you can think of, I think that there's a challenge here for me somewhere around empathy. And if you would just talk to the person next to you about that, you know, where you can even commit to, you know, showing empathy somewhere with someone or so on to the person next to you. So just take like a couple of minutes to do that, and then we'll take some questions. Yeah, and be inclusive. Det finns det på video. No?
Yes, of course.
Yes, of course. Perfect. Thank you. So please, now you have the opportunity to ask Andrea anything you would like.
You can really ask anything. I'm
Yeah.
not sensitive.
Well, actually, this is the question for both of you, because Monica was talking about compassion and empathy. And I thought that I will put the concept of empathy upside down. And did it occur to you that for some people, it's not that kind of shielded themselves from you or changed the dynamic of friendship, that it's not the lack of empathy, but the abundance of empathy, that it's too much empathy, that it's struck too close home, that they feel, and I'm saying this because I come from doctor's family, and my parents, I remember my father not sleeping because of patients, my mom just being crushed, she worked in ER, if something happened, and at some point you have so much empathy, you are in somebody's shoes so much that you can't take it.
Yeah.
So I can talk for myself, right? When I go around, I think that's maybe not the case. I go around because I am so afraid of how awkward I will feel. So I do it because I feel that I'm not good enough at showing up, because I think that I will say the wrong thing or so. So in my case, I think I want to show up, even though it's going to be awkward, even though I might say the wrong thing, even though I cannot fix anything. So I don't know if that answers your question, but that's for me, right? That's why I think, for me, there's a lot of learning in showing up. So, what do you think?
I think it depends on personality. I mean, I would show up, but I understand sometimes my parents that were just overwhelmed. There was so much suffering on a daily basis, and they really felt for it, you know, the patient that they took care. And I know some friends of mine, and when something happens, they, of course, being awkward is one thing, but they really kind of feel it so much, right? It's just too much for them, and it's not justification, but a kind of it is in some.
I think it can be, especially if you have a lot on your plate already. If you have a lot of things that you are dealing with already, and then something like this comes, and it's sort of too much, too overwhelming, I think you can sort of shut down in a sort of a shock phase or something. You know, I have people really close to me that sort of shut down a little bit. Usually, you know, people, everybody at some point usually comes around in their own pace. And some people are a little bit, that's also a personality thing, you know, some people are very more, you know, take a step back, and some people, you know, want to immediately get involved. So, yeah, there's all sorts of people.
Yeah, and I think also, because I've been reading up on this and the research and so on, and they say also that, let's say, you know, we have a friend in a hole, right? It's dark. The hole is really dark. Empathy is not jumping into that hole and being in the darkness with that person, because then I can't be there of service for that person, right? Because if I'm totally overwhelmed what's happening, I'm down there with them, right? So for me, it's maybe laying on the, you know, outskirt, maybe getting dirty and, you know, beaten up a little bit, but holding the hand maybe. So sort of as a metaphor, right, for that. Yeah. But thank you. That was really brave of you, I think. It was a good question.
I think you were first.
Yeah, I was wondering, two parts of your life that's interesting. One is you're a very flexible person. How do you get there? Or were you just born that way? Or
Yeah.
maybe you did a yoga a lot when you were little? No, that's different kind of flexible. But how did you get there? And second of all was what influenced you later on so you are able to have that brighter outlook? Because was it a religion that you were in touch with? Was it some people that you have spoken to? Was it one day you wake up in the morning and some sunlight just spoke to you? I don't know.
Okay, so let me just take the first question first because that's the easier one. I think it's a personality thing. You know, I was always, you know, and it's not necessarily a positive thing because I had a hard time, you know, staying on one thing when I was a kid. I was, you know, jumping from one sport to another, and you know, the fact that I've been on, you know, several very different job positions and living in different countries. Is not necessarily something, you know, it's positive, but it's you know, it's just a part of who I am. I want, and maybe, you know, it has to do with a little bit of upbringing too. That my, you know, sort of brought up in a little bit of a chaotic family, and there was always some sort of chaos around me, and I, you know, just my family is not very structured, so that's maybe part of it. And the other thing, the question, how I got to that point where I am now, it was definitely a process. It wasn't something that I wake up one morning and thought, you know, wow, now I'm feeling okay. As I mentioned, you know, I had to, you know, I worked with therapy, I did mindfulness, and I tried a lot of things. And I even tried, you know, I'm very open to things, and you know, I tried, you know, religion, you know, if some time you should be religious, maybe it's then. So I really tried to sort of, you know, be, you know, believe in a higher spirit or something, and I don't know, that didn't really, something that didn't really stuck with me, you know. I don't believe. I don't believe that there is a plan for everybody, and that somebody, you know, gave me this situation to challenge me. I sort of think that would have been very mean, you know. So I sort of dropped that thought. So it was just the help of my own, you know, my mental health and friends and family that supported, and just. I had actually one sign though, which was really odd. When I was really down one day. I was sitting in my, I was home alone. I was sitting in the living room. I was writing something, and I was really, really down, sad. And out of a sudden, you know, from the kids' room, nobody was home. I just heard like this cling on a guitar in the room. And you know, I am not religious, but somehow I really got, you know, struck by that. Like that was some sort of sign when I was depressed, and you know, and that, you know, that could happen anything, you know, a guitar that something fell on it or something. But it was very strong, and you know, at that moment I felt like, wow, you know, that was probably a sign. This is going to be okay. You know, you take the grass straws, try to hold on to them every way you can.
So I was recently reflecting, we were actually reflecting on giving advice to your younger self, going back to, say, a college years and say, oh, you know, my college years personally weren't the best of my life. I had a year abroad, which was great, but the rest were sort of mixed. And it's actually really amazing for me to go back and give advice to myself. Usually I've gone through that exercise. Give advice to your younger self, and it's, oh, just be more in the moment, or I don't know, something kind of cliche. But when I went through and actually went through and said what I was doing that wasn't really benefiting me, it was a really powerful exercise for me to do. And a lot of the things were either things I was already doing in my life that were good, or things that were still applicable in my life. So my question to you would be, would you have some advice to your younger self in, you know, before you knew that this was going to happen, if you feel comfortable, of course, with that question?
I don't know, because I don't think there is, I wouldn't know what to change, right? There is, you know, there are two sides to this. Like one is, you know, would I change something, and what would have happened, where would I have been? And of course, if I could change something that wouldn't have made me sick, I would do that. But for the rest of my personality and the rest of the things that I experienced, I really don't know, what things that are, maybe some of the negative things are the things that turned out to turn into something good, that made me, made good things in my life, or made me who I am, minus the cancer. So some of the negative things are, really valuable lessons for your older self, right? So I don't know. It's hard. But that's a good one. I think I would need to think a little bit more about that to be able to know.
I'll have her come back to you on that one.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes. There were some questions over here. Yeah, Gina?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, sort of going back to the going around the block kind of thing. Have you ever been in a situation, though, when somebody did approach you and sort of asked how you were, and you were in a different place and didn't really want to talk about your cancer or think about your cancer, and then, like, how did that feel to you?
That's really interesting, because that happens to me quite a lot. I, as I said, I always appreciate when somebody asks me, how are you? And that doesn't always mean that I wanted to talk about it at that moment, because I might be out with my girlfriends, or I might be on my way to having fun, and I just don't want to think about cancer at that moment. So I just might say, I'm doing good. I'm good, and that might be true, because nothing might have happened since last time, but that might also be that I don't want to talk about it, and there might be another time where I feel I can be more detailed because the time is right. So that happens a lot, and for other people, to give an advice, try to, if you meet somebody in a crisis and they are a little bit closed up, try to be respectful of that, because some people are really curious. Don't try to push or dig for an answer if that person starts backing up, because you don't really have the right to know. Eventually you would probably find out if anyway. But so no, that happens to me all the time, and I don't want to scare anybody off, because it's okay to ask, and that doesn't mean that the question was inappropriate. It just means that right now I'm not in that cancer mode.
Yeah, I guess when they have the open-ended how are you, it's not saying how are you because you have cancer. It's just how are you. It's like sort of the interest in you as a person.
But you can also ask the other way. You can also ask, how are you doing, and you really want to know, but don't take it personal if that person doesn't open up immediately, because that isn't about you. It's about me at this moment.
Mm-hmm.
So
thank you.
So how do you, that's actually a good point, how do you apply that to social media? For example, some people don't see you, but on the social media they want to interact with you, and they want to know how you're doing, and what is the best way to interact on social media, and ask that question?
I haven't been very open on social media about my cancer. I haven't really, been hiding it, but I haven't sort of updated my status, my cancer status on social media. And I think people have been respectful of that. I don't think there is anybody that has sort of blurted out something there. And I'm not super active either at social media, so maybe I'm not the right person to address this question either. Yeah.
So what does your treatment look like now?
My treatment?
Can you say that question again?
The treatment.
What does my treatment?
Oh, okay, got it.
So
What is the treatment?
I'm in a clinical trial in San Diego, which means that I need to travel there every month to get my medicine, and I need to go there for scans and for blood work. It's a targeted therapy, which is something very new and modern in cancer right now, in the fantastic world of cancer. And there is a lot of research on this now, where you just, instead of do chemo and all those things that, doesn't work that well, you take a pill every day, and that sort of, because I have my cancer is due to a gene that keeps mutating, and this medicine, finds those mutated genes and adds that part that they miss. Who was first?
No.
You keep track. Yeah. Yeah.
How has your diagnosis changed your ability to connect to others, both in positive and negative ways?
To connect with other in general, or
Other people, yeah.
I was just saying to Monica, because she was asking me about the same questions that you had about empathy, and she said, do you feel that you don't connect with people or do your best on that part? And I do that all the time, because it sort of makes you, when you meet your friends, and they are concerned about me, and then you go from there and you think, wow, I'm really such a bad friend myself. I didn't ask this friend how she was doing, the whole time, and so sometimes it makes you a little bit sort of in your own bubble, and I really don't. I really try to think about that, not to be in my own cancer bubble all the time, and I'm trying to work on that, to sort of step out of that too, and work on my compassion as well. I think it's easier now. In the beginning it was very hard. The first thing, you go through a lot of phases when you go through shock, and the first thing you do is usually close up. So in the beginning I was very introvert, and then slowly I've been sort of more extrovert again.
So 2 more questions. Yeah. So you, and then Magda, and then.
I was wondering about cultural differences. Do you find a different approach to you telling about your diagnosis in Sweden compared to here?
Yes and no. The friends that I have here and the friends that I have in Sweden, so, the close people that are supportive, they're really supportive, but there is some cultural differences. Swedish people, I think usually they are like a coconut, right? They have a hard shell and a soft inside.
That's us. Yeah.
Whereas Americans, they are the opposite. They're like something with
mushy.
a very soft outside and a hard core. Right? I can't think of a fruit right now. I don't know. So usually, you meet people. So people that I don't know that well, and I tell them that I had a lot of bad examples of this. Where I blurted it out in the wrong context, and people sort of hear, especially Americans, sort of back off a little bit from you, because they are, they're not used to being, overwhelmed with somebody's personal problems, maybe. Whereas in Sweden, I think we are a little bit. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know if you agree, but I think Swedish people might be a little bit more. They're not so easy to get to know. But then once you know them, even if it's just like a shallow friend, you can be pretty deep with them. So this culture. Sometimes I find that I had. When we live in our old neighborhood, I had people that sort of asked me, how are you? And I started to tell them, because I really thought they wanted to know, I'm going through chemo and it's hard, and I have all those things. And I could see that person just get the scary look, and sort of...
I did not want you to answer that.
And went, and I said, oh, I really think I need to go now or something. And I felt really vulnerable, because I opened up and that person didn't open up. So that happens, I think, more here. But,
One thing that you've said also, actually, I just want to, that you've seen a big difference in gender. How,
Yeah.
Gender difference when it comes to how people respond to you. And I mean, now we can't generalize, right? But we can talk about your experience.
Oh, we can generalize a little bit.
Yeah.
You're all women here almost.
Sorry.
But it is actually quite sad, of all the men that I know, of all the spouses and male friends, and also my husband. There's only really less than a handful, except for our parents and me and my husband's brothers, that even at one point showed me some sort of compassion or asked me about my cancer or how are you doing with your cancer. You know, most of the people, except for less than a handful, didn't even ask me once if, and those are people that I know pretty well, I think, and that made me sad and also very angry because, a lot of men think that, all these fluffy, soft things, I leave it up to my wife, and then I sort of tag along to that, and they think that's okay and that's enough, so you need to talk to your spouses, and you need to tell them, step out of your comfort zone, be there for your friends, So yeah.
Magda, last question.
Yeah, so you said since diagnosis, no so much long-term plans, but you have trips planned, and my question would be, which is so great that you have trips planned, and any crazy plans now, like shark diving over the Galapagos, parachuting from the upper levels of the atmosphere, or bungee jumping Grand Canyon.
Why do people always think that, but when you get sick, you always want to urge to do those things?
I would love to have courage for that now, and I think, like sometimes the motivation can come from strange places.
Yeah, you can, and I remember when I got sick, and people were like, you should go and do fun stuff, if I were you, I would go to Disneyland, and do all these things. I was like, are you crazy? I can't even get out of my bed right now. I definitely don't want to go to Disneyland. So that, it takes a while, everything takes a while to digest, and but I don't have the same interests as you. My way of being adventurous is going to Utah and doing other things. But I'm trying to. I feel like I'm more scared of things now, except everything that has to do with my family, of course, and they being quite paranoid now with them. But besides from that, I if I would have, if that's what I would wanted to do, have bungee jump, that's probably what I
would be
doing. But I really. I'm fine with the other things.
But I can come and do some of that stuff with you. No worries. So, Andrea, thank you so much for taking your time. Have another bun, Thank you so much for coming. It was wonderful to have all of you here. Thank you.